Tonight we welcome Lisa as our guest speaker. Lisa is the Executive Director of Hodia, an organisation which organises camps for children and young people who have diabetes in Idaho, America. The diabetes camp started in 1978 by Don Scott. The goal of these camps is to provide children and teenagers could come and actually experience the outdoor, meet other people, form friendships, and learn skills to enable them to live full and independent lives. Lisa has type 1 diabetes and has been living with diabetes for 36 years and was herself a former camper at Hodia camps. She is also a parent of a child with type 1 diabetes. Welcome, Lisa, and thank you for calling me tonight.
Thank you so much, Claire.
Okay, the next part we do is a 90-second questions, and it gets us to know you a bit better. It's just a few quick fire questions. So we'll do that next. So, what is your name and occupation?
Lisa Gier, and I'm the Executive Director of Idaho Diabetes Youth Programs and Hodia.
When were you diagnosed and how old were you?
I was diagnosed when I was 5 years old, and my son was diagnosed also actually at the age of 6.
Do you finger prick or use smart technology?
So currently I am using a CGM and an insulin pump, and so is my son.
This one we have a laugh about. When you finger prick, do you change the lancets every day?
I love oh no. I love this question, and I love that we can laugh at it together. Um, no, I can just leave it at that. I don't have to explain. You just ask me a yes or no, so I can tell you no, and we can move on.
Guilty. We're going to be calling the diabetes police.
Right? Why do they make those boxes of them so big? Is what I don't understand.
You only need one a year. What's the matter with them?
One a year, one a leap year.
Yeah, leap year.
Okay, the next question. What is your go-to hypo treatment?
Ooh, lately I've been loving orange juice. So that's the go-to lately. It's not quick on the go. It's not like something I carry with me everywhere, but if I'm home, that's what I go for.
Okay, thank you. What do you think is worse, feeling hypo or feeling hyper?
Ooh, feeling hypo. I don't like the loss of control that I feel when my blood sugar goes low.
I don't think anybody does, to be honest.
No.
What is one thing you like about diabetes and one thing you don't like about diabetes?
One thing I like about diabetes is that it has given me the community of people that are embedded everywhere in my life. All of the people, so many of the people that are most important in my life, I know because of my diabetes journey. And the thing I like least about it is stinking diabetes. It's hard. It's no fun. It's no good. No one wants it, but this community of people with it is ridiculously fantastic.
Okay, do you love or hate the smell of insulin?
Ooh, yeah. If I have to do it, I would say probably hate it, but I'm not a big hater. So it's not my favorite smell. I like that it stinks. So that way, if your site's not working, you can smell it and you can figure that out pretty quick.
I think that's the reason why they made it smell, isn't it? Did I hear that right, or is that natural gas?
That's natural gas.
Okay.
It's
No,
preserver in
I'm
insulin.
sure. Yeah, I'm sure they. Yeah. Well, either way, it's good. Yeah, you're right that it smells.
Okay, our last question, Lisa. If you're on a desert island, what 3 things would you take with you? We'll give you all your diabetes stuff, so you don't need to worry about that.
Okay, awesome. So I would take with me on a desert island. I would bring chapstick. I would bring a boat. Can I bring a boat? To maybe get off the island, and I would bring my family.
Okay. Right, next section we are going to cover is your diabetes diagnosis and your journey with diabetes. So, can you please share with the diabetes chat community your diagnosis with diabetes when you were diagnosed and how old you were?
Yeah. So I was diagnosed in the 80s. I was 5 years old at the time of my diagnosis. And at that time, I guess my diagnosis story was I ended up just getting a series of different illnesses um, and different things that might have my parents taking me into the doctor's office. And then I would end up going home on some sort of a treatment or another, and I still was sick. And so it's still a little chicken or the egg. We're not sure if it was the diabetes was triggered by all of those things, or if maybe I had diabetes already as the kind of underground current that was making all of the other things even harder. But that was my experience being diagnosed, was just kind of a long time of unanswered questions, and then finally I got the diagnosis.
Thank you for that. Before you were diagnosed, did you know much about diabetes?
I didn't, and neither did my family. I was the first known person in my family to have type 1 diabetes, and so that was a big learning curve for us, and not a part of our life or our community or knowledge ahead of that.
Okay. So, how has your diabetes journey progressed over the years? What treatment did you start on straight away and leading up to being on your pump now?
Yeah, so I started using, I was diagnosed at a time when there were disposable syringes and blood sugar testing, so I did not have to check my levels with urine. So I
You
started.
youngster. Oh, you youngster. Lucky.
I know, right? Well, look at you, Tony. I want to hear more stories. You've got the good old days stories that we need to reminisce about.
Unfortunately, I have. Maybe later.
Maybe later. So that's where I started, was on those technologies, and at the same time, things of course have changed so much. So the insulin that I started on would have been like an ultra lente and a regular style insulin, so there were more peaks and valleys, and kind of more predictable food times that were required. And the access that I have right now, I am on a continuous glucose monitor, an insulin pump, and a rapid acting insulin. So those are huge differences, but very, very grateful for all efforts in the tech space.
What pump CGM do you use?
Yes, I'm on a Tandem and a Dexcom.
Okay, good. Control like you.
That's right. Yes. How about you?
Okay. Yeah, same. Yeah, indeed. I think I think that tends to be one of the common hybrid closed loops over here nowadays. So yeah, definitely. So good.
Cool. Yes, it's such a good question, and I don't know if we're supposed to give disclaimers of who we are not, but just to be sure. So I am not an expert in all of the bits of how everything works, but my type 1 person perspective on this would the answer would be so it is so variable. It really is in the States, and it probably is in many more places in the world, but I'm speaking to what I know here for the United States. We have, for a person with diabetes, they really need, there's so many layers of accessibility barriers that are just kind of built into the way things happen. And there's probably good intention for those things. Again, I don't know how or why they work this way, but someone with diabetes is able to go to a pharmacy and is able to purchase some supplies over the counter without a prescription just at the pharmacy. But those supplies that they can do that for, there's just different types of them that they can buy over the counter without a prescription versus types of things that you do need a prescription for, which requires that you're seeing some sort of a physician or a healthcare provider who can write the prescription for you. And then there's in addition, after that is done, you have a copay, or you have to pay out of cash, out of pocket entirely for what those things are. So that's kind of your next hurdle to get through, is coming up with being able to pay for it. And then after that, if you want to look at things like the CGMs or the insulin pumps, those can also fall under a couple different layers of categories that may or may not make them easier or harder on your budget to be able to afford. And so it's like a durable medical equipment, things like that. So people just really have to figure out what's going to make the most sense for what they want based on the hopes that they have to use. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah, from all.
It is. So yeah, there are warranties, and the pharmaceutical companies really do a good job of trying to figure out how they can help someone continue to use something once they get access to it. And if they have trouble getting access, there's a lot of patient assistance programs that help do that too. But yes, those warranty programs do exist here, certainly. Yeah.
Okay, Lisa. How does the tech that you use help you with your everyday life, and what are your pros and cons of having and using that tech?
Yeah, I am really grateful for the technology that I'm using right now. I feel like, to be really honest, I mean, diabetes is something, like we all know, that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You don't get breaks. And at the same time, when you can find that sweet spot, oh, a sweet spot's pretty funny because we're diabetes talking here, but sweet spot intended to be a good thing. When you can find a sweet spot of having the technology that's working and your insulin dialed in right, and a healthcare team that works, I actually feel like diabetes can feel like less of a burden every single day. And that's kind of how I feel about my diabetes right now, using the technologies that I have. They are helping me live the life I want to live. My diabetes is not controlling the life that I am living.
Thank you for that. And my last question before we pass over to Tony is, are there any memorable moments that you take away from your early days of living with diabetes? Like, do you remember your first hypo, or do you remember injecting for the first time? Anything like that?
Yeah, so the two quick ones I would share. First one is meeting my very first friend with diabetes. His name is Jason, and we are still in touch. And I met him in the school nurse's office, or school secretary's office, as a young child. And just to have somebody else that we could check our blood sugars together and share that camaraderie together was really special to me, and will always be dear in my heart. And the second was giving my first insulin injection for the first time, which I did at camp. And the nurse in my cabin helped me do that. I could still show you the rock that I was sitting on out in front of the cabin, where I got to have that experience. So big self-reliance and community building were my biggies for sure.
Thank you for that.
Thanks,
Just
Claire.
one last thing I've just thought about. Is there anything that you wish that you'd known when you were diagnosed that you know now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm sure that there is so many things. You mean like right when I was first diagnosed, how it would have changed that experience, perhaps?
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely. What when I was a young child, when my parents would go to give me shots, I would beg them. The phrase I would use is, "Mom, please don't hurt me." Um, and my mom and I have talked a lot about that since I've been an adult, and how much that hurt her, Claire. I didn't mean to hurt her. I didn't mean to scar her with those words. My mom, because I was not being hurt, I was being helped. That's what I needed to live. I need insulin to live. And but that phrase, if I could go back, I would tell my young self, don't say that to your parents, because that's going to become living torture for them for a long time.
Thank you for that, Lisa. Right, I'm going to hand you over to Tony now, who's going to talk about your son's diagnosis.
Sure.
Hiya, you right?
Hello. Yes.
So, yeah, it's interesting that we've got Mary who's part of DiabetesChat, and she's got a type 1 son, Johnny, and so obviously it's for all of us it's a subject close to our collective hearts. Obviously your son having type 1 as well. I mean, was it a classic diagnosis, the 40s, or how did you? I mean, how did you notice, his type 1 coming on? Was it sudden, or did you kind of pick up on the signs?
Yes, we've always looked for the signs, just try to be aware, and exactly right. He started showing some more of those, drinking more water, going to the bathroom more than usual, and so we just checked his blood sugar at home, to, of course, eliminate the fact that he didn't have we wanted to be sure he didn't have diabetes, which is why we tested his blood sugar. And then when his blood sugar reading came back in the 400s, we knew what we were going to be looking at.
So was it a case of, was it a case of then just being proactive and straight to the doctors, or was there any signs of DKA, or was it a gradual thing?
Yeah, we actually did reach out, and through the diabetes camp community that we have here, I reached out to a really dear friend and mentor of mine, and just asked him for advice. He actually got me on the phone with another really dear friend and mentor, who is a clinical psychologist, who was able to help me process through some of the shock of what we were dealing with, because I was still caught off guard and deer in the headlights, even though it wasn't entirely unthinkable for this to be our life situation. And then we actually called and got him in to go see one of our dear pediatric endocrinologist friends at the hospital. He admitted him, and we just went from there.
Was it? Do you think being a type 1 yourself, do you think that was a pro or a con? Do you think that it kind of helped you process that? And that obviously quite sudden and quite shocking. Was it good or bad? Having that appreciation of the condition, did it help in the early days with reassuring him, or how did, or was it just like you say, deer in the headlights, like most parents of type 1s?
Yeah, I think all of those are good questions and ways to look at it. As you were talking, a couple of things that came to mind. One would be, I don't know that it was I don't know about better or worse. One thing that I think is really interesting, though, Tony, that I still find really fascinating, is when you ask my son about his diagnosis experience, he'll tell you his diagnosis experience. And when you ask me to tell you his diagnosis experience, I'll tell you his diagnosis experience. And Tony, they're entirely different.
Yeah,
Entirely different. And so for me, that gives me a little bit of encouragement and also understanding and frustration about how some of this works. Especially earlier, you guys are talking about community and how do you get people in the diabetes community and to come out and be a part of it. If really every life experience we're going through, everyone is feeling it differently, seeing it differently, understanding it differently, there is no wonder we're all disconnected. It probably makes that a lot harder. So I don't know that my lens made it harder or easier. I've had a roller coaster of emotions, as my son has as well, through the process. But it's what we know, and I try to meet him and his diabetes where he is, rather than pushing my own past history of diabetes into his life. That's not what I want to do.
How long ago was he diagnosed?
It's been almost 4 years.
Okay, right. Okay, so you when we speak about the community, at least obviously with social media and at least you had that opportunity, or he had that opportunity to kind of reach out, or you reach out.
Yes, we really lean into that really seriously. And that's the most comfortable place that I think I feel and he feels in diabetes, is that community space. So that's exactly right. Yeah, it's important to us. It's the cornerstone of how we handle this chronic illness every day.
Do you think both of you you mentioned about you've got completely different views of the same diagnosis. Do you think that both of you having type 1 helps you understand each other a little bit more? Or I mean, are there any examples that you can give where it's, you know, it's a positive, you and him being able to understand the same condition?
Yeah, for sure. At one point when he was just being diagnosed, what he said to me, he looked at me and he said, "Mom, we're twins."
Oh,
um, and to him, that was meant to be such a cool thing because it was something we share. And so that was one moment that is going to be a treasure in my heart for sure. Another one that's just kind of day-to-day fun is if we both have a low blood sugar at the same time, then we splurge on our low blood sugar treatment, and we don't go for juice, we go for candy or something fun. So so if we're both low, he goes, "Let's get cake, we get candy." And so that's pretty so that's a pretty fun shared moment. Yeah.
Halloween night. Oh God, I've got a really low blood sugar tonight, Mum.
Exactly right. Yep. Yep.
So how do you? I mean, how do you? Does it? You mentioned you're on T-Slim and Dexcom. Presumably, he's on the same.
Yes, that's right.
Okay. And do you use? I mean, how do you as a parent monitor his? Do you use Dexcom Share? Is that, or is he, you know, or does he like to be in control of his kind of his monitoring?
Yeah, no, that's the age. It's so fascinating, isn't it? How self-reliance, it means different things depending on how old you are and all the different bits that are happening. So for Gavin at this age, he we do the Dexcom Share with him so that we can support him, and at the same time we have a lot of conversations about what does he want to self-manage. And I say self-manage with, I mean, we're still his parents. We still take care of him, but we want
Yeah.
to empower him where he's comfortable and wants to take more ownership. So we work together on that really regularly to figure out what it looks like. But he tries really hard and he does a really good job. But we certainly are there to support. And like his teachers and stuff, if they hear a beep that's not attended to, then they know they can go over and just give him a gentle reminder. You know, kids just get caught up in being kids sometimes and forget to hear the alarms. So.
Oh God, we as adults do that.
That's true too. That's fair.
Don't worry. There's many a time when I've heard the pump buzzing in the bed, and I've thought, I'll just give it another 5 minutes.
Yeah, guilty. I feel ya. That's true. Good
I
point.
know. From a parent's perspective, supporting the child with diabetes, what is the most challenging aspect that you find? Yeah, you mentioned about the trying to empower him, but are there sometimes when you need to pull rank and kind of, you know, get parenty? Does that happen, or does it happen often?
Yeah. I mean, I guess having to pull rank, I don't think that is much, probably in our house, because again, there's two of us that have the same.
Yeah.
And so for us, it's less about the pulling rank and more about the reminder that sometimes this sucks. Sometimes this is so hard. And there are times that I don't want to do it either. You know, I don't want to take care of my diabetes either. And so when we can have those moments together of, we don't want to do this all the time, and this is hard. And when we can normalize those feelings, that's what we try to do, is a lot of normalizing the feelings that go with it.
And you're both very open about being able to say that to each other.
We really try, yeah. We try not to keep stuff like that inside, and also that to talk about the power of the choice with that. It's like, well, you know, what do you think? I mean, if you don't want to do that, what's that going to mean? And is that a healthy decision? Is that the decision that you want to be making right now? Let's talk about it. So we try to talk through. We don't just you know, we don't just give in to all the things, but we try to talk about what's the consequences of either route of this decision, and then use those to go from there.
It's really interesting hearing you talk, because I don't think I ever had those. Certainly, I ever had those conversations as a kid with my dad. I mean, and I do wish I had now in hindsight. But certainly, my mum was very hands off, but hands on, and so. But the we didn't have the complication of both of us being type 1, really. So it's always very interesting, particularly as I mentioned Mary in the team. It's just how much you balance that as a parent against as a fellow type 1 within a family. It's you know, and the dynamic. It's very, very interesting. Kind of last question on diagnosis and journey. You mentioned peer support for your son. I mean, have you done any additional kind of education and networking? I mean, presumably, has he been on the camps with you or on his own yet?
Yeah, he has. So he has done camps on his own. And then we do also, through our program, we do a lot of just community events throughout the year for people of all ages with diabetes and those who support them. And so, yeah, so families come and get together. He also has another friend with diabetes on one of his sports teams right now. So he even gets regular support outside of diabetes, intentional events. But yes, he does. He definitely gets scooped into those, and always looks forward to being surrounded by people who understand what he's going through.
That must be really powerful. You know, being able to. I know that we spoke at DDoc to get a type 1, you know, folks, and it was, you know, it was amazing seeing what you kind of young people had done for themselves within their own community, and it was actually a quite, and particularly going through the Hodia stuff earlier on, it was it was like, oh God, so jealous. I wish there was something like that around when I was a kid, because it's just a wonderful thing that happens. It's just, you know, that when you start to talk to other people who are in the same place, in the same space, it's amazing.
It really is. It's this interesting thing because, in one sense, I don't think that. I mean, this community here, though, is a great example of that. You can bring people together in so many different ways, but when we have the thing that carries us of just baseline understanding, it's just easier to become instant friends. It's easier to trust each other. It's easier to feel comfortable being vulnerable, and normalizing that is just such a good, important, healthy thing. Earlier, you guys were talking also about adult programming, and that is something too that I do see picking up, certainly in the United States, but globally as well. And I think hopefully those will just continue to expand because, like you mentioned, in one sense, it's nice to look back and think, I wish it was there when I was a kid. And at the same time, as adults, we still need this stuff today. And so watching those programs continue to develop is just going to be more and more important as we go.
Absolutely. Right. So we're all flying over to America, and we're going to come to your camps for sure.
I sent
road trips.
I sent Tom a Google map. I looked at the Sawtons Mountains, and I sent Tom a Google Map link, and it's one of those things where both of us got kind of into Street View and started to look, and yeah, definitely. So he's picking me up in the morning, and
9 o'clock. Be ready. But I think
that includes me too.
We're all going. We're getting a bus. We're en route now. I think you make a valid point, though, Lisa. We talk. I think I've said it so many times, and you make that point there where we can always look back and go, "Oh, I wish we had it." But why can't we have it now? On today, on what, the 22nd of April, 2024, I am an adult or 34 years old. I look back and say, "Oh, I wish I had it. I wish I had it when I was 17." But let's have it now then. It's never too late to be part of these things. And we all need it for different reasons, whether it's peer support, whether it's education, whether it's to help with mental health or help reduce some burden or whatever, or make new friends, make diabetes, whatever it is. And in a few minutes, I know we're gonna go on to the next section, but it is never too late. And a prime example to that, I'm extremely proud to say, is 2 years ago, I was 15 years into doing into my diabetes journey, very alone, very embarrassed, didn't connect with people. I then had technology that embraced my confidence, and that's where I started DiabetesChat. And now we are a fantastic community all over the world, connecting with people just like yourself. So again, it's never too late, right? And you can and I just wish there was more opportunities for like camps and stuff for adults. And I know you're going to share a little bit about that in a minute. So yeah, I just thought I'd add that.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you mentioned all of it. And I echo everything you just said. Our spirit is so the same on that, for sure.
Definitely. Yep. So what we're going to do, I'm going to hope this works, because I've never done this before. So we'll see if it works. I'm going to play a audio file that should come through here, and a YouTube video on our StreamYard, which will go out to our platforms. So Lisa, you kindly, when we spoke about coming on and your journey and your son's journey and about the camps, and obviously with your camp you have a video, and you kindly said that we could share it tonight and use it as part of DiabetesChat to show and hear a little bit about diabetes camps. Is that still okay? Can we share that tonight, the next couple of minutes?
I would love for you to share it. And as everyone is watching, though, knowing that we're located all over this incredible world of ours, there are programs like this everywhere. And so if you're not already connected, let's connect, and we'll get you plugged in to something nearby. Even League of Diabetes out of the UK is an option for you guys with adult program. Exactly. Yep. So so look at this for sure. Be hopefully inspired, encouraged, fall in love with it. But and then let's look for it close to home for everybody.
Awesome. So let's hope this works, and hopefully sound will work okay coming through. And it'll be on our podcast as well afterwards anyway, on our website and YouTube and stuff. So you can go check out the video as well. So let's see if this works.
Hodia is literally just family. Hodia is literally just to give you a big hug and tell you. We are just here to give you a big hug and tell you, hey, it's okay. This every single day together. We're working through this every single day together, and we're gonna make it.
So Hodia is the last little part of Idaho, first little part of diabetes, and we go by Idaho Diabetes Youth Programs. We're a nonprofit organization providing sleepaway camps, of course, adventure camps in the backcountry, day camps, and then single day programs for children and their families with type 1 diabetes.
We are located in the Sawtooth Mountains. We have beautiful settings. We have big alpine lakes, and we have beautiful mountain scenery. We pretty much have anything you can imagine outdoors at our disposal.
I like that a lot of adults have diabetes here. It's like they all get you, and it's like, it's just not weird that they have it. Like, it's normal.
After I tell someone that I've had diabetes for 18 years, usually there's like a little sparkle in their eye, and they're like, how have you done it? Really, it's just kind of like trial and error and experience from my past campers and counselors that I have been able to work with and gain their knowledge.
So they really come to understand their diabetes better. They understand why those variations are there and what to do about it.
I'm just really glad that I get the opportunity to extend that out to my campers and help them kind of relieve some stress off of this chronic disease.
For us at camp, education is life. And it's experiential education everywhere, teachable moments at every opportunity that we have.
Diabetes doesn't get in the way of anything.
They can do anything they want to do. They can go kayaking, they can go paddleboarding, they can go swimming, they can rappel off a 180-foot rock. So it really does teach them this independence and this confidence to go out and do all kinds of things.
The heart of Hodia really is pretty beautiful, pure, and so simple.
It's just a camp full of people who understand me or like the same as me.
It's like a second family to me.
We've had hundreds, thousands of children experience this. It's just extremely rewarding and worth every moment of my time that I spend.
You know, camp just really helped me develop into the person that I am with type 1 and kind of showing me like, okay, I can live through it, or if I'm going through a hard time, there's people I can talk to.
I learned to give my first insulin shot here. I learned to feel different and better about my life with diabetes here.
Sometimes diabetes can be overwhelming, and I've done this living with diabetes experience for 45 years at this point. And so I try to teach the kids that and help them see that sometimes obstacles can become strengths to you. But I think that camp can really just show them, hey, there's other kids with this disease and there's other people that can do difficult things like you, and so you can be successful with it.
Say if you haven't changed your pump by yourself before, you're like, okay, I'm really scared because I don't know how to change my pump by myself and I don't know if anybody else does, but then they're like, okay, we can help you, we know how to do this, and then they help you, and then you feel way better and you feel more better about yourself and your diabetes.
And you don't feel like you're the only different person.
Everybody has something in common, and we get together and celebrate it because we have diabetes.
Kids deserve to realize how wonderful they are and that they can do anything that they want to do, and that's what Hodia will give to each and every one of our campers.
People who want to come and teach other people how to live awesome lives and balance their care. And so I would just encourage you to maybe think about volunteering if you haven't done that before.
And do you have international students as well, or campers and staff as well?
Oh, that's a good question. So our programs, ours are very short. So they're like the longest ones are a week. Some camps run for weeks at a time or even the whole summer where they could hire staff for the whole summer. Yeah. But I do know sometimes with visas and things like that, depending on what country, there might be parameters that you would just have to check for the camp session that would have parameters that would work for your travel requirements, certainly. But we have heard of camps that do have international volunteers, international paid staff members, and international participants as well, like campers themselves. So yeah, if you don't see something closer to home, or if you have a little bite of or if you're getting the travel bug and you want to hit the road, certainly it's a fun thing to hook up with your local diabetes camp wherever you are.
No, brilliant. Thank you. So guys, please go check out the video if you haven't seen it. Apologies it didn't work through Twitter X this evening, but it is on our YouTube page, and our website will be on shortly after. So go check that out. I know the guys on YouTube were able to see it. So I'm going to hand back to Tony, and we're going to learn a little bit now in more detail. So over to you, my friend.
Brilliant. Thank you. So we've obviously talked about the camps. So do you want to tell the community a little bit about the history of Hodia and the missions and values? Give us a brief overview of Hodia.
Yes, I would love to do that. So our name in and of itself is even interesting. It's the last little part of Idaho, which is the state in the western side of the United States where we're located. The last little part of Idaho and the first little part of diabetes. And so that's the organization's name. We were founded in 1978 by a pediatric nurse. He didn't have diabetes. His name was Don Scott, but he had the most caring, loving heart out of anybody that you'd ever meet. And he wanted to create a place where children with diabetes could get out and do the incredible things that there are to do here in our community, and learn how to balance their diabetes along for the ride rather than always feeling controlled by their chronic illness. And especially in the 70s, it was a different task than it is today because technology was different. So we've now where we are, we've grown up with that same philosophy. So when you look at our programs, if you were to like fly over them in a really cool, really quiet airplane with the windows down where you could hear what was happening and see what was happening, it wouldn't be an airplane, Tony. That was a bad example. But whatever it was, if you're hovering over camp, what you're going to see is you're going to see people that are out doing all kinds of really fun things. And it depends on the child's age and what session will kind of tell you what sorts of programming that looks like. But you see people that are out, you see people that are active, you see people engaging with one another. And throughout all of it, we are weaving diabetes education as we go. It's all experiential education. So we get out and do amazing things and talk about, problem solve, pack, prepare, debrief, how to make our diabetes be along for the ride throughout all of the cool adventures that we do. So that's what it looks like. And we've never turned a child away or a family away due to their ability to afford it. Accessibility is really important to us, and we're always expanding that as well.
How did you get involved? Did you, presumably you went to a camp and then went to another camp and then slowly kind of got more involved?
Yeah, so I actually, Hodia is the camp that I went to when I was that was my first camp. Hodia is my first camp. And so that's the place that I am still working now. And it's been amazing to be a part of it for so long and in so many fun ways. So I started at Hodia as a camper, and that's where I learned to give my first insulin injection. Barb taught me that, like I mentioned, on the rock out in front of my cabin, and grew up through the program as a volunteer. And then I became a board member and then took on the executive director position job out of a development need that we had. And so now I get to do Hodia all the time. And I'm also currently the board chairman of the Diabetes Education and Camping Association, which is a network of diabetes camps. So I get to do all kinds of camp in all kinds of ways.
Presumably, you're talking about doing your first injection. Was it very, very, very early on in your diagnosis? I mean, literally, was it right after? I mean, were your parents then? Were your parents injecting you beforehand? And was the camp a really positive step in your own independence?
Yes, it was a huge step in my independence. So my parents would drive to school to give me my lunchtime injections. And when I was high or needed, different injections for different things for the first 5 years that I had diabetes. So I was not quick at doing those injections on my own. So it took me going to camp and sitting with somebody to walk me through it, do it with me. She actually let me give her an injection first. The nurse did. That's how this worked. She did. And and then after that, then she let me helped me to give my own. And I still remember when my mom came to pick me up, and my mom and my grandma came to pick me up, and they were so excited and so surprised at what I was able to do. So it's interesting though, as an adult now, my insulin pump, I still don't love giving. I mean, I can do injections, but pump site insertion, I get nervous around it. It can take me a really long time. So if I'm with somebody else who wants to just put it in for me and get it done quick, I would much rather have someone insert my insulin pump for me now, which is kind of silly. I don't know if that's a step backwards or what it means, but someone could probably psychoanalyze it.
I'm exactly the same, but I think mine's got to do with the fact that I'm damn lazy. It's it's really interesting. Funny enough, you mentioned 78. That's the year I was diagnosed, and I remember having to kind of do injections into oranges with syringes, disposable syringes, and that was the practice. I mean, and literally, we were thrown kind of right into it. It was, they wanted us out and into the world as soon as possible. But the worst thing about that was that obviously the moment you're kind of on the bus on the way home, that's it. It's, it's either sink or swim. And to have that, if you like, that peer support must have been incredible for you. Just that ability to then start to own your condition. It's
it was absolutely huge for me to get to learn how to do that. And certainly something I still think for anyone diagnosed with diabetes, when any bit of independence gained is really important. And even some of the independence that we gain, especially as we get older, is also realizing the part of our independence is also our ability to ask for help and our ability to know when dependence is important. And that's, another big part of what we're doing.
And that's a very important lesson, isn't it? It's just, it is that ability to sometimes know when it is time not to open oneself up. That's a bigger lesson as being independent, being able to recognize that you are codependent. It's a lot of us don't do that very well. It's So about the camps, is there an average camp, or how do they differ? Is it is it days? Is it weeks? Or you mentioned there's a kind of variance. I mean, how tell us the kind of camps and the types of things that kind of go on, the activities and different ages, different kind of experience of type 1.
Yes, all of that for sure. So we run Hodia. I should step back. So Hodia really has kind of two pillars. The first is our camps, and the second is our community events. And so for us, camps could be anything from what we call a snippet camp, which might just even be a couple hour long program, where people can come together to dive into a certain topic of interest, or maybe it's a certain age group in particular that needs some additional programs planned. So we do snippet camps that might just be a couple hours, or maybe like a couple hours during one day, then they go home and sleep at home and then come back for a couple hours the next day. Then we get into like a week-long day camp program for our youngest campers. And we have where they just come each day for a couple of hours, kind of like a school model or like a field trip model. Yeah. And then we have a junior camp where they can come sleep away for basically a long weekend, just to start to learn how to sleep away from home, what that feels like. A lot of our kids, it's their first time having that experience. And then we move up into our week-long sleepaway camps. And we do week-long or nearly week-long trip and travel, like whitewater rafting camps or wilderness camps, where they're backpacking in those beautiful Sawtooth Mountains that you guys are going to come visit tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. And then outside of those, we have some family day-long family camps as well. Our community events are a little bit more interesting because those programs take all different shapes and sizes. And we run those actually all across our service area, which from side to side is about 10 hours of travel. So we try to triplicate those community events throughout the year. So that way families hopefully have a little bit more reasonable drive to get to those programs.
See, that's the thing for us in the UK. We tend to look at long journeys as being, down to London, and that's 120 miles away. And so the idea of traveling, any 10 hours it always amazes me every time I go to the States that there's no next door. Everything is such huge distances. It's we've got a tiny island we have.
Yes, I know. It's definitely. We have a really large area over here, and because of the rural spread of where it is, even things like medical care is really centralized to the more densely populated areas, and so people do have a lot of traveling that they have to do in order to just do basic diabetes needs where we're located.
Does that remoteness, does that cause any particular logistical issues, or is it just a case of having to factor in, everything is so much further away, and so traveling then becomes part of the organizational considerations?
Yeah, we know it definitely has. There's so many accessibility troubles that happen, especially for families who live in really remote areas. If maybe they don't have a car that will get them where they need to go to be able to take them to their medical appointments or to our programs. For our camps, we have started now busing campers from centralized areas Again, they still might have to drive a couple of hours to get there, but we do try to hub those pickup sites across the service area to make that as minimal as possible.
Okay.
And so busing has been wonderful, but even that, I mean, the price for busing here went up 40% for us in the last year, which added a huge amount to our nonprofit's budget that we weren't anticipating. So there's definitely accessibility issues and costs either for the families or for us as the nonprofit trying to find people to help us underwrite those costs. But we're trying to work on that accessibility. And then things like telemedicine and stuff is also picking up around here. And the healthcare providers are working really hard on how to serve people in those more rural communities without making them feel they have to drive so far. But a lot of good work being done, but I don't know that we have the foolproof answer quite yet.
Okay. I mean, in terms of the structure and the organisation of a camp, I mean, how do you have doctors and nurses on site or trained healthcare professionals, and do you tend to mix your attendees? I mean, presumably some are using pumps, hybrid closed loops, but presumably some are on pens or smart pens, sensors of differing kinds. Do you find that that's an issue, or doesn't it really matter? Everybody has their own thing to do.
Yeah, so we see a wide variety of people on different sorts of technologies at our programs. And I think in a way it's kind of nice because when kids especially are at home, they might just become really comfortable with what they're using. And our adults probably feel that way too. So at camp, people really do get to see a wide variety and get to see what else there is out there and how does it work and what does it actually look like, the similarities and the differences. We do have a lot of healthcare providers at our program. Each of our overnight camps, we try to have one credentialed healthcare provider in each cabin of kids, which is about a between 1 to 8 and 1 to 12 ratio.
Okay.
And then in addition to that, we have camp counselors and counselors in training, medical in training, who are the support, I say support team, but they're not support. They're running the program portions of what the cabin is doing day to day. And so those cabin program staff and the medical staff work together to make the experience really good for the kids and make sure that they're having a good week as well as staff.
Do you find a general, your average camp? What are the usual things that people get out? Well, I mean, what are the best things when they leave? Is it dependent on the type of camp, or are there particular things that you always see on the faces of people as they leave?
Yeah, one thing that we see for sure is the friendship, is the support network, is the community. So you see a lot of kids at the bus pickup introducing their parents to their new friend and, asking parents to swap phone numbers and things like that if they haven't already done it themselves. So you see those connections and those friendships, the budding friendships that you just can't wait to see where life takes them as that dynamic duo or tripod. And beyond. I mean, sometimes it's the whole cabin of kids that become, BFFs. And I think the other thing that we see a lot, I know the thing we don't see, Tony, actually, what we don't see when camp is done, we don't see kids go to their parents and go, hello, mom and dad, or hello, mom and mom, or hello, anybody. I learned so much at camp. And I know now how to better manage my diabetes. You're never going to hear a kid tell you the best part of camp is what they learned. But that's where the magic is, because it's through all of the things that are so ridiculously fun. We infuse the diabetes education and make diabetes so normal that the pace of every single activity and the flow and the intention, like how we place A to B to C as camp counselors, we have all this figured out so we can walk with the kids through all these activities in a way that just builds in their diabetes care. So that way, when they go home, if they're going to go float the river, which is an activity that's really popular here, or if they're going to go to a swimming, if they're going to go swimming somewhere, now the kids have in their toolbox, they have the skills to do that. They have the know-how. They also know what they've seen fail and what they definitely don't want to do again. So what you see is you see kids leave camp with confidence to go do really cool, also really normal stuff, and just bring their diabetes along. But you see them and their educational outcomes. You just don't ever hear them say that they loved all the formal education they got at camp.
Wow, that's yeah. I mean, that must be incredibly rewarding to kind of see that reaction. It's just that I've just had a camp, Mum. You know, it's just nothing about the learning stuff. It's just I've had a great time. The greatest thing is for them to not be talking about their condition rather than talking about it. It's because then then you know that you have normalized it, particularly for that week or those 2 hours and that's, you know, that's just, yeah, that's incredible.
Well, thank you. And that's exactly it. And we are now trying to move into the space of supporting the support networks, because you get these kids that come home feeling like they may have advanced in a certain way of thinking of their diabetes or their life with diabetes. And now we want to be sure that we bring their support networks along for the ride. And that way they can continue this conversation and continue the momentum once they get home from our programs. And then we try to scoot back in with the families again when they come back for the next year, so we know where the family is at. And then it's just better continuity when we can do it with a more dense support network once the kids are done.
Wow. Claire's got the next bit, but before we go, Tom's just screenshotted within the chat, and apparently we can fly from Manchester to Manchester to Boys. It'll take us 19 hours 10 minutes.
We're going. There's a flight tomorrow, 9:05.
I've got my passport ready.
And it's 1100 quid with United. So I think
maybe not.
We'll see you sometime tomorrow night.
So that gives me enough time then to get the branding up for our first ever DiabetesChat Hodia day camp.
Oh my gosh.
We will host it right when you get here. We'll have a party at the airport and start camp with you.
I was saying to Tom earlier, the thing that really worries me though is the bears and the snakes.
Oh no. Well, we have plenty of we'll help you with that. We'll help. See, this is part of experiential education. We will help you. We'll help you problem solve how to feel about that.
I'm quite a good shot, so just give me a rifle and I'll look after myself.
Oh gosh. You know, the good thing at camp is kids are so loud. Really, bears don't want to be around people. And the kids are so loud. You just don't want to sneak up on them, right? That's the thing. At camp, kids are so loud. There's no chance that we're going to see one, you know, and spook one, which would be the scary time. We have had them occasionally, but they're not frequent flyers.
Okay, good. Wow. The worst we have to worry about is the occasional fox or badger. We've got it really easy over here. Nothing that will probably kill you or rip you apart.
Badgers are mean little buggers, though.
Yeah.
Or skunks. They're not nice. Such a fantastic chat. Thank you so much. Are you okay for maybe 5 more minutes, Lisa, to round up?
Certainly.
Brilliant. But yeah, we'd love to come, or I would definitely love to come. My background in teaching, I did 3 summers at Camp America. I just wish I knew there were such things like this, because as much as I loved my camp in Connecticut, I would have loved to have had this opportunity. But never say never. And if I'll have to say to my wife, hey, why don't we go on holiday to America and take the kids? And I'll try that. I'll see if we can get a holiday booked in some point. So Claire, I wondered if you Flipper, I can see your hands up. I don't know, are you on the panel?
I am. Can you hear me?
Hi, yeah.
Hi, Lisa. Hi. I'm
Hello.
sort of next door to you in Washington State. So a little bit closer than the UK anyway. Although actually my husband is from Idaho and grew up in Burley and spent a lot of time in Boise, so have been there. I wondered if I wanted to find out more about camp, is there a way, like, can I reach out either DMing you at camp Hodia or get you to DM me if I wanted to have a further conversation about camp? And I can tell you why I'm asking if you're interested.
Absolutely. And yes, you could please reach out to me, Flipper. And also at the same time, if it helps you, our website also has all the contact information on it. But there are also a couple of camps that are in Washington as well. And diabetescamps.org actually has a Find a Camp page where you can even get direct contact info for your local camps too. But yes, I would love to chat with you anytime, and please reach out. That'd be fabulous.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I'm type 1 diagnosed in 1975, so I've been around and actually have an idea for a story that I work in a technical job, but I'm trying partly for mental health to get more in touch with my creative side too, and had an idea for a story about a teen who's recently diagnosed with type 1 and goes to diabetes summer camp. But I never did back in the 70s. So I've talked to a few people who have attended diabetes summer camp. I've talked to 4 people, but would love to talk to some of the organizers and people who run camps too. So if I could reach out to you, I will DM you or contact you through the web, but that would be great. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. It's going to be a joy. I look forward to continuing the chat.
Thank you, Phil. And that was Philip, actually. My tech's not working this side, so I saw Philip's hand go up, and then Philip spoke. So I'm not sure the tech's not working this side. Philippa, are you there as well, Flipper? I can see your hand up, but I don't know if you're on the speaker panel. Maybe not. Claire, can you see Philippa's hand, or is it just me? Nope. What about you, Tony?
Yeah, she's on my screen. She's down as a listener.
Yeah,
and I can see a hand up, but no,
my hand's not up on my phone.
Oh, hi, Philippa.
Hello. No, I put it up earlier, but it's not. And when I go in, it's
very bizarre.
I've put it on now.
Yeah,
and I've taken it off now.
Yay!
So, are you ready, Philippa? I'm picking you up in the morning, and we're off to the States to diabetes camps. You mentioned it in our welcome chat earlier on, so about adults camps and things like this. So,
well,
right?
I don't know those of you. I don't know if you follow Stephen Ponder.
Yeah,
no.
Who's American, and they do a camp in Texas. And I know he was over here, and we met him and were chatting, and we were talking about, maybe we ought to go there. But then I found out how hot it was when they have their camp. And being from England, I don't think I would have been any use to them, because I would have been sat in a shade with my feet in an ice bucket.
Do you do winter camps, Lisa? We'll come then.
We actually do. We just finished our ski weekend about 8 weeks ago now. Yes.
All season.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
But yes. No, it sounds amazing, sort of all the camps and things. And I think it's just that normalizing. But, I mean, we know it as adults. Just meeting up and being, I don't know, having a meal, and it just doesn't matter because everybody's bolusing or checking their blood sugars or whatever. And it's just nice being in the majority.
It is. It is. Sometimes it's really good to feel unique and to stand out for being unique. And sometimes it's so nice just to be able to sit there and feel like you don't have to explain a stinking thing, right? It's full.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. As I say, yeah, just being in the majority. It's just nice occasionally.
Yes, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, Lisa, just to finish off, we've really enjoyed tonight's chat, but we just want to talk a little bit about mental health and peer support. So, what does mental health mean to you?
Mental health means to me where your heart and your mind can align to be doing the best that it can do for you as a person.
Thank you.
That's really great. And can I add on to that? Like, you obviously live with type 1 diabetes, your son lives with type 1 diabetes, and you work in the diabetes world, right? So you're breathing diabetes a lot of the time. Like, what do you do to sort of switch off, or what do you do for your mental health to kind of maybe forget about diabetes for 5 minutes or so? What would you do for yourself or with the family, or what does your son like to do?
Yeah. So if it's for me, my favorite self-care strategies are I love to get outside and go for a walk or with a good audiobook. I love to read. I love art. I'm not good at it, but I love it. My son at this time, he is using lacrosse, the sport of lacrosse, as his outlet. He loves that.
Yeah.
Yep. And he loves to draw and play Pokemon. So those are probably his outlets.
No, that's great. And do you find it hard, sort of balancing the three, like I mentioned, living with diabetes, type 1 parenting diabetes, and also work with diabetes? Can it be quite a lot of times, do you find, or do you make sure that you find time for other things? And I totally get it now with working in diabetes, I guess, and community stuff and living with diabetes, but of course you're busy with family life, but do you kind of try and make sure you have that balance?
Yeah, it's so interesting because really truly this has just been my life track and path for so long that I don't really know I have a clear mind of what it would even look like for variation. And at the same time, I guess what I just try to keep in mind, I try to differentiate for myself and for who I'm hanging out with, which hat that I'm wearing, because that probably is what helps. If I'm just hanging out with a bunch of friends, most of my friends have diabetes or are through camp. And so as I am hanging out with them, and we've even noticed a few times, we have to just say together, look, we're getting together tonight, but we're not getting together as diabetes camp professionals. We're getting together just as people. And we can leave some of that diabetes, the whiteboard, chats and the office talk kind of outside. So I try to we hat differentiate probably, but it usually ends up coming up, and diabetes sneaks in everywhere, I think, but we try.
Yeah, we definitely understand that for sure.
Yeah.
Yes, I know you do. You guys are probably this group, everyone on here. These are our people. We're all in it together. We all get it.
Together we're stronger, right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay, Lisa. How do you think that diabetes camp helps with people with mental health problems?
I think at diabetes camp is number one, we normalizing feelings, normalizing everything we can. We try to spend a lot of intentional time there to just let people know that it's normal to have feelings, and it's also completely normal to have things in your life that you need help with, and to try to understand your threshold. So we talk a lot about those things. I think also mental health is really special with camp because at diabetes camp is where people truly are encouraged to be their authentic self, which takes a big amount of vulnerability. And when you can be vulnerable is when you're actually able to say and to think and to feel all the things that are maybe inside that have been tucked so far away. So we try to encourage people to have feelings, to understand feelings, and also to know what to do with them. Because certainly the diabetes is tough and is not easy on any of our or I shouldn't say any, but I don't know many people who would say it's easier on their mental health to have diabetes.
Thank you for that. Looking into peer support. So being at camp brings a big social element and peer support for everyone. not only the campers but the staff. Why is peer support so important, and what are your views on peer support?
Yeah, peer support I think is so important because it adds another layer of density into our lives. And sometimes peer support is even just having a more informal opportunity to chat with your healthcare provider. If you can break down some of those perceived walls or barriers that of what your healthcare provider expects from you, hopefully then you'll be more honest with them at your future appointments. And so when you're getting to do fun activities in a more friendly, informal environment, I think meeting friends and also connecting with adults or other people or healthcare providers is just it's more real, it's more genuine, and it leads to better connections for the long term.
That's wonderful. Tony, have you got any other questions that you want to ask before we finish?
No, I think we've we've covered it. It's just been, again, it's been just an amazing talk with you, Lisa, to listen to the story about the camps, and about particularly again, I keep mentioning it, about that whole son mother diabetes kind of relationship, and that particularly, as I mentioned earlier, it's particularly with Mary, one of our team. It's it's a story that we've kind of heard before, but it's really unique listening to your story, and like everybody's diabetes, we all have different diabetes. So yeah, it's been great. Thanks, thanks so much for kind of opening up about that.
Well, thank you for sharing the space with me, and just the warm welcome and invitation. Being with you is a joy. So I hope everyone has a really good night.
And we'll see you tomorrow, won't we, when we land in, boys?
I will be ready for you. So yes, absolutely. The only thing would be, if you get to travel here to see me, then we definitely have to do it the opposite way. And I'm going to come visit all of you too, so we can definitely see what it's like in both places. It would be fun.
That sounds fabulous. Tom, have you got anything more that you want to add?
Oh, I've absolutely loved it. I said to myself, I've got a few jobs to do this evening. I'm going to leave you in the company of Tony and Claire, but I've just had to listen in and get involved, because I'm just so blown away by the whole story, the whole chat tonight. And yeah, it's just great. And I will put this in our podcast archive, and people can go listen back, watch the video, and go check out the guys. And yeah, spread that out on Twitter, guys. Retweet things out, and yeah, why not go to a camp? I'm on my way, Tony. I'll be there by morning. Okay, mate.
Okay, Tom, we'll be ready.
If only. Who knows? But honestly, Lisa, it's been really, really fascinating, and it's been great connecting up these last couple of months. And if I remember rightly, was it Belinda Moore from Australia that connected us up?
It sure was.
It was.
Yes.
The fantastic Belinda. I know
I was going to say fantastic. You're exactly right.
She is. Oh, she's an absolute legend in the diabetes world, and I know she's tuned in now. She's been messaging along this evening.
Hi, Belinda.
She is fantastic, and unfortunately, I wasn't able to see her in the UK conference in the UK last week. She's got so much on, but hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll see each other very soon this year, maybe next year, who knows. But you know what? Belinda is such a fantastic advocate for diabetes, such a fantastic professional, but she connects people up. She connects our community with you guys and other people. So we're honored to have people like Belinda, who has connected us together from all over the world. And that's what Diabetes Chat is about: sharing stories, connecting. And that's what we've done tonight, right? We've learned a lot about you and the camp, and I hope that people take a lot from tonight. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much too. Certainly things are better together. I agree with you. So nice to be a part of this. This community is not one I don't think any of us would probably choose. And at the same time, doing it together makes it the most special place. And I'm grateful for all of you.